eyes and call me in the morning.
What if Tim Burton directed Batman and Robin Part 2 has arrived? As we continue down our extended feature-length script written by Mr. Rob Walker, we have one quick detail we wanted to share. While the original movie came out in 1997, Rob and I decided our version of Batman and Robin would have come out in 1999. An important detail that you may understand later and will expound on in the imminent Q&A video down the road. Thanks once again to our team of voice actors and artists who poured their hearts and souls into this video with us. Our very talented pal Malcolm Ray resumes narrator duties as well. A big shout out to him for all his hard work. And of course, thank you for your feedback on Part 1. We all truly appreciate your enthusiasm, and if you stuck with us into the second of our massive 3-part event, we hope you enjoy the middle chapter here. We left off on Mr. Freeze getting away with a stolen diamond used to activate his freeze gun and escaping the clutches of the dynamic duo in the process. He soon strikes a foreboding tone with his commandeered butcher gang, zeroing in on Bruce Wayne's upcoming Humanitarian of the Year charity gala. Why are these villainous actions being taken? Find out now in FanScription's Batman and Robin Part 2. Once again, take it away, Malcolm.
We cut to Barbara Gordon walking down a crowded hallway at Gotham University. She's flanked by her friend, books in hand, who's ranting about their class.
I just don't get what he wants. It's abnormal psychology. You'd think I'd be all over that, but you get an A and I get...
Her friend stops and stares out the hallway window, pointing.
Hey, isn't that your new stalker friend?
Barbara looks out the window and sees Dick Grayson exiting the girls' dorm. He hops on his bike and takes off. Barbara frantically brushes past her friend, forcing the other girl to drop her books. Inside the girls' dorm, we see Barbara rush down the hall and happen upon her room. The door is wide open. A couple of girls are reading books on their beds.
Did someone come looking for me?
Oh, yeah. What's his face? Trust fund.
And?
He wanted you to go to some John Wayne charity event.
And?
I told him to think about it.
The girl returns to her book as Barbara stands there, jaw on the ground. The roommate puts the book down and confesses.
Just kidding. I told him you'd go.
Ugh.
Barbara tosses a pillow at the roommate's face as the other girls laugh. We cut to the next day. Outside the Wayne Tech building, Gotham's elite wave to flashing cameras as they stroll down a red carpet. Inside the building, we see a large ballroom filled with guests. On the upper balcony, Chief Akins addresses his men.
This is our moment to shine. Let's show Gordon how we're gonna run things when he's gone. You dig? No surprises.
The officers nod and fan out onto the floor, taking up security positions on the perimeter of the ballroom. On the floor, an MC announces Gotham's Humanitarian of the Year, Bruce Wayne. Wayne emerges from behind a curtain to thunderous applause. A gold medal around his neck shimmers in the spotlight. He steps in front of a large ice sculpture of himself, briefly staring up at it with a barely disguised look of confusion and disgust. He shakes his head and waves to the crowd. A small ensemble begins to play music as he starts to mingle with the crowd of guests. Alfred hands him a glass of champagne. Bruce grabs it and whispers to Alfred.
Alfred, do me a favor. Take a break.
Alfred smiles and holds up his own glass.
I am, sir.
Bruce nods and takes a sip of his own glass. He spots Chip brooding alone. Chip greets him as Bruce approaches.
Looks like you got friends in high places.
Bruce scans the crowd.
It's a good turnout. I'm not talking about the guest list. Why, Chip, what are you talking about? Don't be so coy. I know what you've told.
Chip points to the sky and whispers.
Him. You want to sling mud, you do it to my face. Hell, I'll even give you a handicap. As tempting as that sounds, my dad told me never wrestle with a pig. You get dirty and the pig enjoys it. Smart man. Too bad he isn't here to see this.
Bruce pats Chip on the shoulder.
Guess same goes for both of us.
Chip angrily gulps down his champagne as Bruce wanders off. We follow Bruce through the crowd when a familiar voice rings out. It's Knox.
Wayne!
Hey, enjoying the hors d'oeuvres?
Yeah, the shrimp is good. I was hoping for something bigger.
Sorry, we don't have bad on the menu.
Yeah, forget that guy. You know what he did? Broke my camera. I'd sue, but yeah.
Knox rolls his eyes.
Anyway, I was wondering if I could get a follow-up.
He pulls out a tape recorder.
The story runs tomorrow, and I'd love a quote from the shindig.
Suddenly, Lucius Fox interrupts.
Ah, the man of the hour.
Knox takes his cue to leave.
Maybe later.
As Knox leaves, Bruce sighs and turns to Lucius.
Thanks. Not just for that, but for all of this.
Everyone loves a party.
Lucius raises his glass towards Dick and Barbara, who are chatting it up.
You even got the kids talking. Who is that girl anyway?
Barbara Gordon.
No. The little freckled rugrat?
Afraid so.
God, time moves fast.
How do you think Jim feels?
Speak of the devil.
Lucius saunters off into the crowd as Commissioner Gordon slides next to Bruce.
Commissioner?
Looks like we have a lot to discuss.
What do you mean?
Well, them.
What about them?
Well,
Bruce!
Dick Grayson joins them, pulling Barbara up by the hand. She smiles nervously.
We've, got something to tell you.
Bruce points to the commissioner.
You too, huh?
Oh, Grandpa. You didn't. You wouldn't.
Commissioner Gordon points to Grayson.
Well, I thought he would have told him.
Told me what?
Barbara and I, we're, seeing each other.
Dick shrugs and smiles. Suddenly, Bruce puts it together.
You? And you?
He turns to Barbara.
You're the one?
The two smile sheepishly. Gordon cuts in.
Surprise.
Bruce goes into full awkward mode, shaking their hands.
That's great. Really it is. Very happy for both of you. Can I borrow you for a second?
Sure.
Bruce grabs Grayson by the arm and pulls him over to a quiet corner. He smiles back at Jim and Barbara and then turns to Grayson, dropping the act.
Yeah. Are you out of your mind?
What?
The commissioner's granddaughter?
So?
So? You don't see how this could be a problem for us?
Hey, that's assuming there is an us.
I thought you said you'd think about it.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna lie, you're making it pretty easy right now.
I just can't believe, of all the irresponsible.
Irresponsible? You literally dated Catwoman!
Keep it down.
And who was that girl before that? A news reporter?
Photojournalist. There's a difference.
Uh-huh.
Bruce goes through a dozen emotions before finally, pathetically, settling on...
I forbid it.
Grayson rolls his eyes.
Okay, Dad. You could just be happy.
Bruce holds out his arm to shush Grayson up. He stares up at the bay windows overlooking the venue space. A shadow moves around suspiciously.
What the hell?
Inside an overlook office, two security guards lie knocked out on the floor, snoring. We follow 6-inch high heels walking past their sleeping bodies. They stop. A hand descends into frame and removes a ring from the guard's finger. Slowly, we pan up to a glittering black cocktail dress to reveal Selena Kyle. She slips the ring on, a perfect fit. With a shrug, she turns around. Bruce and Grayson stand at the door, arms folded. She jumps.
Checking out?
Selena recollects herself.
I'm not much for parties.
Even those you're not invited to?
Must have been an oversight on Bruce's part. I'll just show myself out.
Bruce places his arms across the door, blocking Selena.
Check the box.
Grayson examines a drop box which reads, Wayne Charity Foundation. He picks it up and shakes it.
Empty.
Bruce grabs Selena's arm. He feels something. He lifts the dress sleeve up, revealing $100 bills taped to her arm. Unexpectedly, Selena's leg flies up to kick Bruce in the face. He stops it with martial arts precision, sliding his hand up her thigh and revealing more packets of cash taped to her skin.
Wow, you're something.
Her leg drops. She steps back, almost embarrassed.
That money was given by the good people of Gotham for charity.
Wrong! That pocket change was coughed up by the leeches of Gotham. Also, they can sleep at night after they've sucked this city dry.
And what are you doing?
Putting it to better use.
And the charity?
She smugly walks away from them and heads for the door.
Cut them a check. You can afford it.
Bruce and Dick both step in and go for an arm. She dodges one, but is grabbed by another. She frees one, only to be grabbed a second time. All three wind up in a brief martial arts stalemate, fending off one blow after another. Finally, both grab her simultaneously. She backflips, breaking free and facing the window overlooking the event. They hold for a second, fists drawn in a karate stance. She pauses. Her eyes grow wide as she stares out the window.
Oh my God.
Bruce and Dick turn towards the window. Nothing there. They turn to see Selena running halfway out the door. They sigh at their stupidity. We cut to a stairwell where Bruce and Grayson give chase.
I can't believe it. That's literally the oldest trick in the book.
We're losing her.
I got it.
Grayson hops on the railings and slides down while Bruce trails behind. Near the bottom, Dick spots Barbara. In one swift move, he slides around the banister and positions himself as if he were leaning on it. He smoothly greets Barbara, hiding his exhaustion.
Hey!
We cut to Selena watching from a dark corner under the stairs. She smiles as Dick is forced into conversation. Stealthily, she creeps out of the shadows and heads for the main floor. As she crosses the threshold, Bruce slips in next to her and pins her arms behind her back. He drags her off to the side, away from the crowd, and flips her around, grasping her wrist.
All right, I've had enough. Stealing from charity? This isn't you.
And this is you, getting drunk with all these overstuffed pigs?
The decadent party continues, glasses clinking and elites laughing, blissfully unaware of their fight.
We all have our masks to wear. It's called playing along.
And what about him?
Bruce follows Selena's gaze. It closes in on Chip Shrek.
Chip?
After all we've been through.
Listen, you know better than anyone. Keep your enemies close.
I prefer to keep them 6 feet under.
So that's why you're back? Unfinished business?
He knew I got tossed out of that window and said nothing. He butchered your men on that bridge. He's a psychopath like his father, and you know it.
But I can't prove it.
We don't need proof.
Bruce looks at her in horror. She looks away and then regains her resolve.
Look, you had your chance and you didn't take it. I will.
Selena, you can't just kill a man in cold blood.
Why not? It's what he would do.
Exactly.
A voice cuts through the crowd. Commissioner Gordon approaches.
And who's this lovely lady?
There's an awkward pause as Selena thinks about it. Spontaneously, she smiles and extends her hand.
Vicky Vale.
Oh, yes, you're the,
Reporter.
Bruce cuts in.
Photojournalist. Why is it so difficult?
Same difference.
Gordon points to her, squinting his eyes.
You look familiar.
Dick Grayson suddenly chimes in, entering the fray with Barbara in tow.
Yeah, aren't you wanted somewhere?
Gordon points to Grayson and Selena.
Oh, you two know each other?
We've had a couple of run-ins.
More like bumped into each other. How's the head?
How's yours?
That's a loaded question.
I'll bet.
Barbara looks at Grayson, confused.
You have a headache?
Knox mercifully interrupts, draping his arm over Bruce and pointing to Selena Kyle.
Bruce, great party. Hey, do I know you?
A loud explosion rips through the roof. Panicked guests cover themselves as glass rains down upon them. The Butcher Gang descends from wires and breaks through the side windows. Chief Akins barks through his walkie-talkie.
Send backup, now!
A cleaver hits the walkie-talkie. One of the butchers points a rifle at the chief, shaking his head in no. The police are incapacitated quickly. Gunfire slows to a trickle as many of Gotham's finest are either disarmed or knocked unconscious. Finally, a figure descends slowly from a rope. It crashes onto the ice sculpture of Bruce Wayne, smashing it to bits. We close in on a pair of steel boots standing upon the icy pedestal. Panning up, we now see the full, terrifying visage of Mr. Freeze, blue skin shimmering and red eyes glowing from behind the glass dome of his metal suit. He smiles, flashing his turquoise teeth like a wolf. We return to his steel boots. They step down and walk across the floor, slowly, methodically, shattering the silence. Finally, he speaks.
Such revelries for such an insubstantial pageant.
Gordon is the first to reply.
Who are you? What do you want?
Who I am is immaterial, but what I want is very. Tell me, where is Mr. Wayne? I very much wish to speak with him. Him and all his kin.
Alfred and Bruce slowly emerge from the crowd. Grayson slowly slips behind into the crowd, trying to find an exit so he can return as Robin. Chip shoulder checks him back into the crowd. He stumbles into the center of the room. Grayson glares at Chip, now fully exposed. Mr. Freeze approaches and extends his hand for a shake.
At long last.
Forgive me if I give you the cold shoulder.
Freeze laughs to himself.
A man of infinite jest. So like your father. Funny how history repeats itself. Seems this is the second time Gotham's finest has failed your family.
Gordon angrily chimes in.
Keep talking. It won't be long before you're let out of here in handcuffs.
Chief Akins cautiously places his hand on Gordon's shoulder, pulling him back. Jim? Freeze confronts Gordon, sarcastically imitating Akins.
Oh, Jim.
He follows up by gazing at the unconscious cops littering the floor.
Read the room. The show is over.
Batman and Robin are still out there.
Bruce and Grayson eye each other nervously, knowing the truth. Freeze continues.
Waiting in the wings, are they?
Grabs Commissioner Gordon by his tie, pulling him close.
I've seen their quality.
Barbara angrily steps in.
Hey, leave him alone!
Freeze gently lets go of Gordon and walks menacingly towards Barbara. With brute strength, he grabs her by the neck and hoists her. She struggles to breathe. Gordon gasps in terror.
Barbara,
He grabs his chest and collapses, sweating and heaving with labored breath. Barbara struggles in the air, choking on her words.
Please, my grandfather, he's sick.
Freeze notes the tears in her eyes. Slowly, he carries the struggling girl over to the commissioner. Gently, he lets her down. Her feet touch the ground. Then he forces her down next to her grandfather. Patronizingly, he pats her head like a dog.
Stay.
He turns to address the horrified audience as Barbara holds her grandfather's hand.
Misery has made me a fiend, robbed me of both benevolence and good. But deep down, I am not a monster.
Bruce cuts in.
Could have fooled me.
Freeze moves in close, staring Wayne down.
You fear that which doesn't exist. You know what I fear? Men.
He rips the gold medal from Bruce's neck and shouts, addressing the entire crowd.
Men like Thomas Wayne!
Freeze holds the medal high for all to see.
A fellow humanitarian who made a promise to save my ailing wife and stole that hope from me.
Bruce's eyes widen in horror. He suddenly puts it together, as if remembering an old story.
Victor Freeze. But you're...
Dead? No. Entombed for 40 years, thanks to the vicious acts of your father.
My father funded your research, and you repaid him by breaking into his lab on the same night our company was being robbed at gunpoint.
Is that what he told you? It wasn't some clandestine corporate espionage that stopped me. It was your father. He called upon his armed security. He burst into my lab and thwarted all my attempts to save my wife!
No, you're a liar.
Ignorance is the womb of all monsters, Mr. Wayne. But now, you can make amends.
Freeze pulls out the small snow globe with the statuette of Nora dancing. He extends it out towards Bruce, his voice softer, more pleading.
All I ask is her, my sweet Nora, who lies frozen somewhere here on these grounds.
There was nothing left in that lab.
And she was moved.
Bruce swallows, preparing for what's to come.
Everything from that era was purged.
Now who lies?
From the crowd, Chip adds his 2 cents.
It's true. They cleaned house. You just missed her.
Bruce shoots a glare at Chip. Chip shrugs at Bruce.
What? It's public record now. She got taken out with the trash.
Freeze pauses, his face stricken with horror. He stares at the image of Nora, and then back at Bruce.
Murderer.
We didn't know.
Silence! You have taken that which is most important. important to me. And so, I shall take that which is most important to you.
Slowly, he takes the freeze ray and aims it squarely at Alfred. Grayson, suspecting what's coming, shouts and jumps in front of the old man.
No!
The ice beam hits Grayson first, then spreads to Alfred. Both are now entombed, faces frozen in horror. The crowd erupts in gasps. Barbara screams in terror as Bruce stumbles back in shock, barely able to stand. Freeze approaches Bruce now, mockingly.
Where are your jibes now? Not one to mock your own grinning.
Freeze raises the ice gun and points it at Bruce's face.
I'd like to see your face frozen, just as it is.
A mere split second from the trigger pull, a loud crack shatters the room. Freeze flips around, ensnared by a black whip. Catwoman grabs him, plunging Batman's old stolen taser in his side.
It'll have to wait.
The Butcher Gang aim their guns at Catwoman and Mr. Freeze. She zaps the taser into a small panel on Freeze's suit. He convulses involuntarily as the suit chatters with electricity.
Back off, or Frosty gets it.
What quarrel do you have with me?
You're bad for business. There's only room for one cat burglar in this town.
Freeze laughs. His eyes move towards Commissioner Gordon.
A bat, a cat, and a robin. Quite the zoo you're running here, Commissioner.
Catwoman jabs him again.
Enough talk. The diamond.
Of course.
Freeze lowers the rifle. The diamond's compartment opens.
If you'll allow me.
He slides the rifle into his arm and begins removing a glove. His exposed hand, now steaming, reaches toward the diamond. Bruce looks at the hand. His eyes widen as he realizes the implication.
No, wait!
Freeze swings around and grabs Catwoman's neck with his bare hand. The leather begins to chip and shatter as ice pulls around her neck. She struggles. Her throat is cut off, encased in ice. The sound of police sirens wailing begins to echo throughout the room. He tosses Catwoman aside, just as the main doors open, revealing an army of cops. Freeze aims his rifle towards the door and turns to Bruce.
Now you finally see the truth. The road through hell is cold.
He fires the rifle in a straight line along the floor. Guests and cops scatter out of the way. A river of ice now leads out. Freeze marches down it with his steel-cleated boots. The Butcher Gang follows as the guests and officers struggle to their feet, slipping on the ice. In the chaos, Bruce slides next to Catwoman. Her eyes are red as she writhes aimlessly, grabbing at the icy noose around her neck. Bruce grabs a cleaver and hovers over her, steadying himself.
What goes around comes around.
He strikes at the icy collar, chipping it. The ice breaks. Catwoman gasps and looks at Grayson and Alfred, encased in ice. She shouts,
Go!
Bruce jumps to his feet. Chip moves in next to him, smiling smugly as the crowd scurries about.
Humanitarian of the year.
Bruce shoves him aside and sprints to the frozen bodies, kneeling next to them. Panic-stricken, he violently chips at the ice with a cleaver. Lucius slides next to him as pandemonium reigns around them.
You remember that experimental thermal technology I wanted you to work on?
Yes, but it hasn't been tested yet. Bruce grabs Lucius by his tie.
And let's test it.
We cut to Bruce, Lucius, and a small team of doctors rushing 2 gurneys down one of Wayne Tech's hallways. Robin and Alfred are strapped to the moving tables, still frozen in place. We follow them through a series of swinging doors. The final one reads, Research and Development, Authorized Personnel Only. As the medical team pushes through the final set of doors, we jump cut to Mr. Freeze pushing through his own set of doors at the Butcher Gang's hideout. The room is crawling with ice sculptures, flanked uneasily by members of the gang. The criminals stand still as the ice, silently eyeing Freeze as he moves towards the boss's empty chair. One of the gang's members steps out of the kitchen with a tray full of beer glasses. Blissfully unaware, he leans in towards the approaching Mr. Freeze and cheerfully asks, how'd it go? Freeze shoves him away. In a fit of rage, he grabs a flamethrower lying on a table and aims it at the ice sculptures. He screams in blood-curdling agony as he roasts the sculptures with flame. The gang takes cover as the frozen images slowly melt into twisted forms. Freeze drops the flamethrower, exhausted. He pulls out the snow globe and stares emptily at it. He lowers his head, broken. In the silence, the boss steps up, angry.
What the hell was that?
Leave me.
No! You promised us a big score!
Freeze grabs the boss by the throat and lifts him up. Some of the gang draw their weapons nervously. Others don't. They all step back out of fear. Freeze growls at the man.
Perhaps you should heed the wisdom of the ancients. 1 second of patience can save a life, but 1 moment of impatience can ruin it.
He tosses the boss across the floor, where he slides violently into his own men.
Now go! All of you!
The men scurry and head for various exits. From the main entrance, a single applauding clap echoes through the room.
Bravo. Bravo! Good help is so hard to find these days. But at least you know how to handle incompetent employees.
Freeze turns to see a shadow enter the light. It's Chip Shrek, looking sharp as ever.
Who are you?
Just a humble servant.
I recognize you. You're that worm from the charity event.
Now, is that any way to treat the person who brought you back from the dead?
Freeze eyes Chip and grins.
So, those were your men that thawed me.
They were.
Why?
So I could make you an offer.
And what could you possibly offer me?
Hope.
Freeze turns away.
Unlikely.
Why don't you come with me? I got something to show you.
And if I refuse?
Chip raises his finger and snaps so loudly that it echoes throughout the room. A couple seconds later, machine gun fire reverberates throughout the building, followed by the screams of the Butcher Gang. The screams and gunfire fade out as we hear Chip's smug reply.
You won't.
The screams again grow louder as we cut to black and total silence. In an underground laboratory at the Wayne Tech building, we see 2 glass boxes connected to the machinery. The advanced tech hums and beeps like hospital equipment. We hover over the glass, revealing both Dick Grayson and Alfred Pennyworth, still fully clothed, submerged in a glowing orange liquid. They look asleep, almost as if in death. Bruce stands at the end, between them, watching in silence. Lucius walks over to him and puts his hand on Wayne's shoulder to comfort him. Solemnly, he says, "They're going to be all right." Bruce sighs heavily and hangs his head low, relieved. He maintains his vigil as we pan out. We fade into a black and white newspaper photo of a young Bruce Wayne standing in front of his parents' coffins. A younger Alfred stands beside him, his hand resting on the young boy's shoulder. Moving out, we see Knox staring at the picture on his archive screen. He sighs and looks over at his computer. A headline reads, "Scandal." However, the page is blank. He exits out the door. Inside the Gazette's head office, we see the editor-in-chief, Bill Kane, played by Alan Arkin. He sits at the desk, chomping on a cigar, when Knox bursts in.
I'm not doing it. You're kidding. You can't tell me you believe this tin can story.
Knox, you spent the past decade turning this paper into a tabloid, and now you get cold feet?
I resent that. It's more like National Geographic, cryptozoology.
Then go to the Amazon! I'm here to sell papers.
And what if I could get you something better?
Like what?
The truth.
The editor coughs on his cigar and laughs.
Good luck with that!
We move on to Gotham Memorial Hospital. Police Captain Robert and now acting Commissioner Akins stand inside a hospital room, huddled by the doorway. Behind them, Barbara Gordon sits next to Jim Gordon, bedridden and hooked up to IVs. A heart monitor continuously beeps. You'd think it's true? Who cares? Thomas Wayne is dead. Our only concern is this nut job. If... Akins looks back towards Jim and Barbara and lowers his voice to a whisper. If what the doctors say are true, he's not coming back to work. I'm acting commissioner now, and this is going to be a real trial by fire for all of us. Don't you mean ice? Akins glares at Robert. We move back to Jim and Barbara. A little black and white TV hanging in the corner spills out the day's news. An anchorwoman says that, though unconscious, Dick Grayson and Alfred Pennyworth's conditions have been downgraded from critical to stable. They were returned to Wayne Manor for further observation by family doctors. Barbara watches, concerned. Jim notices.
Barbara, for God's sakes, just go see him.
I'm not going to leave you.
I'll be fine. The last thing I need is you throwing your life away for a tired old man. Besides, I get to relax. It's not my problem anymore.
Don't say that.
No, it's time. Came a few weeks early, but...
I wish there's something I could have done.
You will. By using this.
Jim points to his head.
Not this.
His finger makes a gun symbol.
Stick to school. And every criminal who walks through our courtrooms will know the name Barbara Gordon. Now get. It's a police order.
Barbara sighs and shakes her head.
No.
She kisses him on the forehead.
Not anymore.
She heads out, stopping to glare angrily at Akins.
Well, you got your wish, Commissioner. Batman and Robin never showed.
Meanwhile, at Wayne Manor, Bruce sits by Alfred's side in the butler's bedroom. The old man sleeps, unconscious. Bruce thumbs through his father's ledger. A note reads, "Fishing trip with Bruce." We cut to an image of Bruce as a child, fishing with his father. He snaps out of it. He turns the page. It reads, "Meet Victor. Alfred to watch Bruce." Bruce closes his eyes again and sees the shadow of a man talking with his father by the lake. Though barely imperceptible in the glittering sunlight, we can tell it's Victor. The two walk off as Alfred ushers Bruce toward a rowboat. Again, Bruce snaps out of it. He turns the page, only to find a number of pages ripped out. The next entry simply says, "It is done. Bruce must never know." Bruce stares at the date and returns to his memories. He sees a mansion window and himself, staring out into a clear snowy field that blends into a steel gray sky. Out of the drifting snow, a car emerges. Thomas Wayne exits it. He looks up at Bruce, his face grim and regretful. He can't maintain his eye contact with the boy for long. As he disappears, Bruce still stares down, like a vengeful ghost, judging him. A loud bell shatters the distant howling wind. Bruce snaps out of it. A bell rings again. The doorbell. He gets up and steps out into the hall, where he passes Dick Grayson's room. He peers in briefly. Grayson is unconscious and hooked to heart monitors as well. Bruce sighs and moves on. In the foyer, Bruce opens the door to find Barbara Gordon holding a picnic basket. She stands by, nervously, before breaking the silence.
I just wanted to, see how he was doing, or how all of you were doing.
Yeah, come in.
Bruce lets her in. She hands him the basket. Inside are sandwiches. He looks confused.
He lives on those at school.
Bruce chuckles to himself.
No kidding.
Barbara also drags in a giant vase of flowers with a note attached and hands it to Bruce.
And I think this is for you. It was on the doorstep.
Bruce grabs the gaudy bouquet and inspects the note. In cursive, it reads, "I don't believe it for a second. Vicky." Bruce smiles nostalgically. Barbara notices.
Old friend?
You could say that.
He sets the flowers down on a side table.
Look, I just wanted to apologize for earlier.
Don't. You were surprised. I get it.
Yeah, well.
Bruce inspects one of the sandwiches and sniffs it.
Ham?
Canadian bacon. I think it's part of his sick pineapple pizza thing. Better girls would dump a guy for that, but I'm the creepy forensic psychology major, so I guess I gotta settle.
She shrugs.
You really do care about him, don't you?
My grandpa always said, good guys are a rare commodity in the city.
Yeah, he would know.
She nods sadly.
Is he,
He'll live. but it's gonna be a long road to recovery.
Hey, Jim Gordon's one of the toughest guys I know.
I hope that applies all around.
Her eyes dart to a picture of Grayson hanging on a wall filled with old Wayne family photos.
Now, don't worry about him. That kid's a Wayne now. We're great survivors.
A voice cuts down from the top of the stairs.
Speak for yourself.
They look up to see Dick Grayson, in a robe, EKG monitor still attached to his chest, slowly trudging down the stairs.
I feel like shit.
Barbara rushes up and hugs him tight. Grayson exhales with a heaving sigh, still sore.
Whoa. Easy there.
She helps him down the last couple steps. Bruce looks at him in shock and relief.
Well, look at you. You didn't even miss a beat.
Grayson shrugs.
I smelled bacon.
Bruce looks down at the picnic basket, unnerved. An old man's voice calls out from the stairwell.
If I had known we were having guests, I would have tidied up the place.
Alfred, in a bathrobe, slowly descends the staircase, nearly tripping.
Alfred!
Grayson smiles and leaves Barbara. Before Bruce can intervene, Dick ascends the stairs and steadies Alfred before he can fall again.
You shouldn't be up in your condition.
Yeah, you're one to talk. Come on.
Grayson helps Alfred back up the stairs. He looks down at Barbara and shrugs, stuck for the moment. As they disappear, Bruce turns to Barbara.
Sorry.
It's all right. He's lucky, and so am I. I should check on my own family.
She bids farewell, but as she opens the door, Bruce stops her.
Hey, don't be a stranger.
She smiles and nods. We cut to the Wayne Tech building. Inside, Knox is chasing down a tired Lucius Fox, tie undone, suit coat off, and coffee in hand. Clearly, it's beyond late, and Lucius is having none of Knox's crap.
Oh, come on, you know me!
More than enough reason to say no.
I'm not asking for anything proprietary.
Well, that's good, since there's none of it left down there.
Okay, security footage, film stock, old infomercials, there's gotta be something.
Why would a muckraker like you care? Knox pauses in front of a railing overlooking the ballroom space, now covered in rubble and police tape.
Because none of this adds up. Yeah, the Waynes are rich, yeah, they're weird, but Jack Frost the robo-jockey? He's dirty.
Lucius stares at the rubble below them and sighs to himself. Knox continues.
Look, I could have had a scandal piece out already. Hell, they're printing one without me. You know what that normally is to a guy like me? Gold. Now please tell me I didn't put my faith in you guys for nothing.
Lucius gestures to Knox. Follow me. Meanwhile, back inside Alfred's bedroom, Bruce hands the old man a cup of warm tea.
Earl Grey. Squeeze a lemon, 2 sugars, no cream. Just how you like it.
Alfred grabs it and leans back against the bed frame, sipping it slowly.
And here I thought you never noticed. Always the detective.
Alfred sets the tea on a breakfast tray filled with hot chicken soup and tries to sit back up in bed.
Yeah, well, I don't feel like one right now.
You're only human, despite what the criminals may think.
A long, uncomfortable pause unfolds. Bruce finally breaks the silence.
Did you know?
Alfred slides further into the pillows and blankets, as if retreating.
No.
His eyes gaze across the room, landing on a picture of young Bruce, Thomas Wayne, and Alfred in front of a lake. Young Bruce is holding up a fish. Alfred sighs.
I knew your father was mixing business with recreation up at the lake house. He and Victor were working on something. Something that went wrong. Something your father would never talk about. It changed him.
What? What changed him?
I don't know. But whatever it was, you were the cure. He devoted more time to you and your mother than ever. If only we knew what precious little time was left.
You kept this for 40 years?
Why tarnish the last months of a man's life?
He cut the funding for Nora's disease. He stabbed Victor in the back. He
was complicated. Conflicted. I thought you, of all people, would appreciate that.
We briefly cut to the Batcave. Dick Grayson, in his bathrobe, approaches the Robin suit. Next to it is his old circus uniform. He pulls out a wallet-sized photo of Barbara Gordon and holds it up. It glimmers in between the two suits. He sighs. Back upstairs, Alfred sips his soup in bed as Bruce is lost in thought. Finally, Bruce speaks.
Chip is involved somehow. I know it.
How do you know?
Bruce tosses Thomas Wayne's ledger to Alfred. He thumbs through it. Pages are torn out.
Missing pages?
Bruce raises an all-knowing eyebrow.
Mr. Shrek's handiwork, no doubt.
He's covering his tracks.
What about the tracking device you placed in his briefcase?
Hasn't budged.
Bruce sighs, angry.
He knows something. The convoy, Freeze, it's all interconnected. I just need to figure out how before it's too late.
We cut to an undisclosed storage facility where Chip, flanked by armed men, speaks to Mr. Freeze. His voice echoes throughout the hall.
Thomas Wayne wanted to sweep things under the rug. Bruce Wayne wanted to take out the trash. But one man's trash is another man's treasure.
They stop at a secure door.
Or so they say.
Freeze stares at him, impatient.
Get to the point.
Chip presses a button, and the door automatically opens with a hiss. Inside is Nora Freeze, sealed in a cryotube floating in endless sleep. Mr. Freeze's eyes open wide. His mouth drops.
Nora.
In Freeze's hand, the snow globe of Nora dancing drops to the floor, shattering in slow motion. Just as slowly, Freeze approaches the tube, his eyes transfixed on her. He touches the glass. His head tries to reach her sleeping embrace, but the glass of his own suit collides with the tube, reverberating throughout the room. He stares up again, mind lost in poetry.
Death lies on her like an untimely frost, upon the sweetest flower of all the field, but no more.
Chip breaks the mood.
Yeah, very romantic. Look, I don't know the classics, but I know my Latin. And this gift's brought to you by quid, pro, and quo.
Freeze turns from Chip and walks away.
Whatever you want, granted.
Shrewd negotiator. I'll take it.
Meanwhile, back at Wayne Manor, Alfred has finished his late-night dinner. He and Bruce continue their conversation.
If Shrek is involved, as you say, surely those pages are destroyed.
Bruce rubs his eyes.
There must be another way to find out what happened that night.
We fade into the Wayne Tech building at night. Lucius's voice carries over. I don't even think Mr. Wayne knows about this part of the building. Inside the building, Lucius and Knox descend a series of stairs. Knox continues the conversation.
How was that possible?
It's a large company, too large for one alone. And Mr. Wayne has so many distracting personal interests, so it's up to me to make the wheels turn. Which leaves us here. We're now inside an old brick hallway. It looks tired and worn, the remains of a building long since lost to the towering skyscraper. Mold and steam fill the space. We've managed to hold on to a few things from the infancy of the company, but the filing system itself was lost in the Great Gotham Flood.
Well, luckily we've got that dam now.
We move on to Gotham City Dam, focusing on one of the towers over the reservoir. Inside the tower, we see Chip and his men leading Freeze around. Machinery covers the walls, humming with electricity. Lab equipment is neatly laid out on workstations. A handful of men are hauling Nora's tube and setting it in place.
I assume this will meet your power needs?
Most assuredly.
Everything you'll need is here. I don't think I need to tell you that time is of the essence.
A man who wastes an hour of time has not discovered the value of life.
Chip smiles.
You always know exactly what to say. I like that. You have the will, and now you have the way.
We cut to darkness. Light flashes on the heels of a loud click. A series of old ceiling lamps flip on, illuminating one of dozens of rows of old archives. Boxes, folders, binders, film canisters, and wheels of magnetic tape drives. All vintage. Knox's jaw drops as Lucius gestures to the endless corridor before them. Go to town.
This is from 1 decade?
Yup. Lucius points to a security camera. And if you step outside this aisle, we'll see it. Rest assured you'll be escorted off these premises with extreme prejudice. Knox gulps. Any questions?
Got any coffee?
We move back to Alfred's bedroom and zoom in on a cup of coffee moving from Bruce's hand to Alfred's.
Here, decaf.
Absurd.
You're getting sleep.
Unlikely with all this going on.
Alfred tries to stir out of bed. Bruce places his hand on the old man's shoulder.
Alfred, you're the closest family I have, so don't take this the wrong way, but shut up and do what's good for you, okay?
Bruce gently pushes him back into the bed. Alfred frowns.
I'm gonna need all the help I can get. The deck is stacked, and we've got 2 sharks to deal with.
3, if you count the wild card.
Who?
Miss Kyle.
We cut to a late-night exterior of a pawn shop. Large, loaded with goodies, and seedy as hell. A neon sign reads, "Lose, Take It or Leave It Pawn Shop. Open 24 hours." Inside, we close in on a fake ID card. It displays Selena Kyle's face, but the name says Maria Ramirez. We flip around to a large, sweaty man chomping on a cigar and rubbing his 5 o'clock shadow. He stares at the card, then looks up at the woman at the counter. It's Selena Kyle, loading the counter with ropes, cables, ammunition, night vision goggles, surveillance equipment, smoke bombs, and a billy club. She then pulls out bricks of cash and starts mentally counting. Suddenly, she spots some Chinese stars and throws them on the counter as well.
How much for these?
The man stares at the Chinese stars and snorts.
Now, what's a pretty little thing like you gonna do with that?
Selena smirks and grabs the star. She throws it at a mannequin near the window, hitting it square between the eyes.
Spelunking.
We cut to bats flying across the bat cave. Bruce Wayne sits at the bat computer as Dick Grayson approaches from a bridge. He crosses the chasm, nursing a cup of hot coffee.
You know, the sun's nearly up. Isn't it time for you to, I don't know, head back to your coffin?
We move in close. On the computer are images of Mr. Freeze, his piercing eyes cutting through the screens. Grayson approaches slowly, realizing Bruce ignored him.
Bruce?
Chip Shrek has Nora. I didn't want to believe it, but it's the only logical explanation. That's why he attacked the convoy. It's why he thought Victor. And it's why the police found Freeze's men gunned down overnight. He's using her as leverage.
Against you.
Bruce nods.
Against me.
Bruce stands up and turns away from Grayson, removing his glasses and rubbing his eyes.
I think it goes without saying, but you were right.
I know.
And you know why I can't ask you to join me this time. You shouldn't have to risk your life to fix my father's mistakes.
Dick shakes his head and laughs at the insanity of Bruce's words.
And that was my father's mistake.
Bruce blinks, unsure how to respond. Grayson sighs and continues.
You know the jump? The one without the net? You saw it the night my parents died. At the circus.
I remember.
You want to know something about that trick? I never did it. See, my father insisted I have a safety net. Didn't matter how much I practiced, didn't matter how much I wanted to prove myself, he wouldn't give in. Until late one night, he said, "You're ready." And so, he dropped the net. And I got out there, and I made it. But when I looked down at my parents smiling back at me, you know what I saw?
The net.
They pulled it up while I was swinging. That was the week before Two-Face attacked. They died before I ever got a chance to,
Grayson sighs and grits his teeth. Bruce tries to interject, frustrating Grayson to no end.
If this is about the bike,
Bruce.
the ice would have broken.
I was going to jump, okay? That was the plan. Because I know my acrobatic skills, and you don't. But you made that decision for me. Why?
Because I can't watch it happen all over again.
Bruce bangs his fist against the metal table. It reverberates with the sound of an echoing gunshot. He turns towards the bat suit, his eyes piercing through the shadows, transfixed on the bat symbol.
I've lost a lot, kid. I have so little left.
Look who you're talking to. I get it. You care about us. But that goes both ways. If you let somebody in, don't expect them not to have your back.
We cut to the GothCorp building at sunset. Inside Chip's office, we see Chip and Inca standing intimately close as the portrait of Max Schreck looms over them. Chip's voice is hushed, secretive.
Remember, I want total radio silence from here on out. Got it?
Of course.
I'll be back when it's done.
Sir.
What?
Inca stares out the door, examining the busy office filled with employees rushing to and fro.
It's nearly the end of the workday. Should I wind the clocks back 10 minutes?
Chip thinks about it and smiles.
Make it 5. I'm in a good mood.
Inca smiles and hands him his briefcase. Outside the GothCorp building, we see Chip Schreck leaving through revolving doors as Selena Kyle watches intently. With briefcase in hand, he slides into the back seat of a luxury car. As it squeals away, she slips in through the front of the building with a duffel bag in hand. We cut to the Batcave, where Bruce listens through a set of headphones. On the Batcomputer, a red dot blips on and off over a map of Gotham. The dot starts moving as Chip's voice cuts through the headphones.
Take the expressway.
Bruce leans back in his chair and turns his head back toward Alfred.
He's on the move.
We cut to the Batmobile peeling out of its platform, jet blazing. Meanwhile, inside the GothCorp building, Selena Kyle ducks into the ladies' room. As an employee puts on lipstick, Kyle casually eyes the bottom of the stalls. She enters the last stall. We pan down to reveal her feet. The sound catches the attention of the woman freshening up at the mirror. She shrugs. Elsewhere, on the Gotham Expressway, we follow Chip's luxury car as night closes in. In a successive shot, we see the Batmobile blasting down the same highway. Back inside the ladies' room, we see Selena Kyle, now dressed as Catwoman, unscrewing a vent with specialized equipment. The woman at the mirror, now finishing up, seems curious about the loud noises. The woman approaches the stall and begins to knock, asking if everything's okay. Inside the stall, Catwoman slides up into the ceiling vent and with feline grace, pulls the duffel bag up with her whip and closes the vent. Just as she disappears, the woman knocks the door down. There's no one there. The woman turns around with a spooked look on her face. In one of the GothCorp building's hallways, we see the woman from the restroom walking and talking with her coworker.
I'm telling you, it's haunted. I don't care what you think. It's haunted.
We pan up as the woman continues to walk down the hall, revealing a ceiling vent. We move inside the vent to reveal Catwoman, silently watching the ladies leave. She smiles and pushes on through the ductwork. We see her exit into a larger duct, one large enough to stand up in. Catwoman examines the ductwork and slips on some infrared goggles. Through the goggles, we see an array of lasers scattered across the tunnel. Using her gymnastic skills, she flips over and under them with feline grace. Cut to inside Chip's office. A rope drops. Catwoman slides down and lands with barely a sound. She examines her surroundings. She notes the painting of Max Schreck leering down at her. She remarks dryly,
Don't worry, the feeling's mutual.
She clicks on a flashlight and moves toward a set of glass cases covered in white sheets. She removes the sheets. Inside the cases are models of power plants, water treatment plants, and oil refineries, all with the same cartoonishly simple design as the one from Batman Returns.
Ugh, same Shrek, different day.
She moves over to a model of Gotham Dam. Downstream are luxury homes, all marked with red X's. On the dam itself, the power plant at the base is marked with a red circle. A small label reads, Excavation Site. In the water intake tower, a note reads, Retrofit for Client F. Her eyes dart over to a filing cabinet. We cut to Catwoman taking photos of various paperwork. She pauses and sighs.
What are you doing here?
A loud thunk and a crunch pierces the silence. Catwoman collapses, revealing Inca standing behind her. The shady secretary holds up a bust of Chip Schreck, now, ironically, chipped. She flashes a satisfied grin.
That's a good question.
Meanwhile, inside Chip's car, the goons check their weapons. Chip watches.
Nervous?
The driver responds. We cut to Batman listening to the driver inside the Batmobile.
I'm just not sure this is gonna work.
Back in Chip's car, he replies with confidence.
It'll work. He doesn't suspect that I know what his miracle cure is capable of.
And just what is it capable of?
We now cut to Knox, still knee-deep in old film strips and paperwork. He holds up a real canister and reads it.
Okay. Animal experiment number 346.
He sighs and flips a switch on the projector. It starts rolling, revealing the dusty black and white image of Victor Fries standing by a rat cage. Knox leans forward.
Hello?
He watches as Victor injects a sleeping rat with glowing serum. The rat wakes up and starts running around. Victor is ecstatic. Another assistant applauds. Suddenly, the rat begins to glow. The energy released from the rat begins to melt the iron cage. Knox's eyes grow wide as he focuses on the mutant creature on screen. It lunges at the lab assistant, setting the man on fire. Knox jumps back in his seat.
Holy shit!
He watches in horror as another lab assistant flies in with a fire extinguisher, dousing the burning man. Victor pulls the two men out through a steel door and hits a switch. A cryogas is released, freezing the rat. There's a pause. Another lab assistant bursts through the door, wielding a sledgehammer. He smashes the rat, shattering it into 1,000 ice crystals. We flip around to Knox, hot and sweaty, loosening his tie.
Jesus.
Suddenly it hits him.
This is it.
He starts tearing through the box for more reels of film.
This is it!
We cut back to Batman in the Batmobile. He watches as the red dot stops on a secluded side road. Batman flashes his teeth.
Gotcha.
At an abandoned rest stop, the Batmobile pulls over and Batman hops out. Everything's quiet. Using a signal tracer, he treks into the woods and finds Shrek's briefcase. He picks it up and opens it. Inside is a note card which reads, "Surprise." Suddenly, a goon jumps on top of Batman with a loud scream. The goon's legs wrap around Batman's throat. Batman struggles before finally slamming himself against a tree, knocking the goon out. Out of the bushes, another goon emerges. Batman attempts to fight him with martial arts, but is struck by a baseball bat from yet another goon. The melee continues until Batman breaks free. Then Chip's driver steps forward, flanked by the other two goons. A standoff. The driver is 300 pounds of pure, suited muscle. He stares down Batman before breaking the silence.
There he is. Just like the boss said he'd be.
Batman assumes a defensive stance as the goon continues.
So what's it gonna be? Nice and slow like? Or quick?
The goon opens his suit coat, revealing a stash of grenades clipped to his jacket. Batman eyes the grenades with a sly grin. The goon smiles back.
If that's the way you want it.
The driver pulls out a grenade and yanks the pin with his teeth. He then chucks it at Batman. With a perfectly executed flying roundhouse, Batman kicks the grenade back towards the goons. It lands at the driver's feet. He stares at it with a split second of horrified realization.
Oh.
The goons dive out of the way, but it's too late. In a wide shot, we see the forest light up with a small explosion, setting a number of tree limbs on fire. We then follow Batman's boots as they trudge over the scorched earth, past two lifeless bodies. We hear coughing. Batman grabs the driver, bloodied, battered, and smoking.
Where is he headed?
The driver laughs and coughs. With one final breath, he says,
Immortality.
The driver goes limp, dead. Meanwhile, at the Gotham Dam Tower, Chip bursts through the door as Freeze holds up a glowing vial.
Well?
It's finished. Soon, Nora and I will be reunited.
Yeah, about that.
Sensing a betrayal, Freeze slowly reaches for one of his gloves. Unfortunately, two of the goons assisting Freeze grab him by the arms and shove guns into the palms of his hands. One of them shakes his head no.
What is this?
See, I was thinking. This serum is tempered by the cryofluid, right? And you injected it between the two of you, watering it down even more.
Freeze glares at him, not liking where this is going.
But what would happen if you injected the whole 9 yards into a normal breathing adult?
The results would be most unpleasant.
Chip walks up to Freeze and grabs the serum.
I'll be the judge of that. After all, you can't revive your lady love without testing it on a guinea pig, right?
I warn you, you have no idea what you're tampering with.
Oh, I think I do, because I have the receipts.
Chip holds the missing pages from Thomas Wayne's diary.
I saved you, I saved her, and you said, whatever I want, you'd grant it. Well, now, the doctor gets his due.
Chip pours the serum into a syringe and examines it. The serum's orange glow illuminates his face like a pot of gold.
The only thing in the world more important than money. Power.
As Freeze struggles fruitlessly, Chip injects himself in the arm. For a moment, nothing happens. Then a sudden tick, followed by convulsions. He lurches over and grabs his stomach, screaming in agony. His blood vessels begin to glow. His skin becomes iridescent. Beneath his flesh, the outline of a skeleton forms. Finally, he collapses, his suit literally smoking. Meanwhile, on the balcony outside Chip's downtown office, Catwoman dangles upside down. Her feet are bound with a rope that extends up to an overhanging phoenix statue. Her hands are tied behind her back. Her eyes slowly open, revealing Inca holding the broken bust of Chip Shrek. Inca examines it, sad.
Looks like this one's a bust.
She tosses the statuette aside. It shatters. Catwoman groans as Inca slithers up to her.
Oh, I know, that was bad. But don't worry.
Inca brandishes a decorative sword from Chip's office.
It'll get worse.
As Inca continues, we see a close-up of Catwoman's hands. She reaches up into a hidden leather compartment situated on her lower back. She pulls out one of the Chinese stars and begins to use it to slice the rope. As she does, a claw breaks loose and falls into the urban canyon below. Down below, we see the mysterious masked rider from the previous night confronting a mugger. He stands with his hands up, brandishing credit cards like a poker hand.
I told you, lady, these credit cards are mine.
Suddenly, an object hits the masked rider on the head with a clunk. She stumbles. The mugger runs. The woman kneels down onto the ground and picks up the object. It's one of Catwoman's claws. The masked rider looks up towards the top of the building. Up above, Inca continues to taunt Catwoman.
They say cats always land on their feet. Shall we put that to the test?
Figures it would end this way, taken out by...
Your equal?
A lapdog.
Inca angrily moves in close, holding the sword to Catwoman's neck.
It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And I'm a bitch.
So am I.
Catwoman hisses and chomps her teeth, nearly nipping Inca's nose. Inca stumbles back, startled. She recomposes herself.
Yeah, but why? We're all monsters here. What makes Shrek so special?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Let's find out.
Inca grabs Catwoman's mask, ripping it off and revealing Selena Kyle. At first, shock gives way to a smile, then laughter. As Inca collects herself, Selena has nearly broken her hands free.
Of course. It's always a jilted ex-employee. Should have figured.
Inca tosses the mask over the edge.
You know, he said you were a nut job.
Word to the wise, the severance package for secretaries around here sucks.
See, unlike you, I'm a damn good secretary.
With a snap, Selena's hands break free. She grabs Inca by the hair and headbutts her.
Heads up.
Catwoman swings from the force of the impact. She rights herself, cuts the rope, and lands over the balcony. Inca staggers back, still holding the sword. Catwoman tosses the Chinese stars. 2 hit the sword. Another grazes Inca's hand. The sword drops. Inca grimaces. Her nose is bleeding. She wipes the blood away with the back of her hand and sniffs. She smiles.
That was good.
She pulls out a gun.
but not good enough.
Even if you stop me, I'm not the only freak in town.
You think he doesn't know that? You think he didn't plan for it? You're too late, furball. At this point, nothing's stopping him.
A grim face washes over Catwoman. We cut to Chip and Freeze inside the Gotham Dam Tower. A couple of Chip's goons hover over him, concerned. He breathes heavily. The iridescent orange hue has given way to a yellowish-green light that radiates from inside his skin. One of the goons leans in.
Boss, you all right?
Chip stands, green vapors trailing from his body. He speaks now in a deeper, raspier tone.
All right. I'm on fire.
He turns around, revealing the horrifying figure of a man whose golden skeleton is visible through his translucent green skin. An ethereal emerald fire flickers from his flesh. He examines his hands, marveling at the bones beneath, and laughs to himself. The goons step back, horrified.
God in heaven. Yes, I suppose I am.
Chip eyes freeze, still being held at gunpoint by his men.
Release him. We have a future to discuss.
Meanwhile, on top of the GothCorp building, Inca points a gun at Selena Kyle, who's standing perilously close to the ledge of the balcony. The wind picks up. Inca motions with the gun.
Now, be a good kitty and jump off the roof.
Didn't anybody ever tell you that you can't herd cats?
No, but you can hurt them.
Inca raises her pistol and closes one eye. Selena looks up and spots a light fixture above Inca's head. She flings a Chinese star at it as Inca fires the pistol. Inca takes a direct hit from the light fixture. She collapses to the ground, unconscious. But not before getting off a shot. The shot grazes Selena's arm. Just a flesh wound, but enough to send her flying head over heels across the ledge. We watch as Selena Kyle flies down the side of the building, eerily similar to her plunge in Batman Returns. She pulls out her whip and thrusts it into the air. It wraps around a statue. Kyle slams to a halt. She's now dangling from the base of the building, 5 stories above the ground. She tries to pull herself up, nearly reaching the statue, but the whip is slipping. Finally, it uncoils. Selena slips. Suddenly, a gloved hand grabs her by the wrist. The mysterious hand slowly lifts her up, revealing the masked rider. Selena rises to her feet and catches her breath, stunned by the sight. She eyes the bat ears on the rider's helmet.
Oh, great. Another one. Is he franchising now?
The rider says nothing. Instead, she picks up Selena's fallen mask off the roof and hands it to her.
Why help me?
The woman points to the camera attached to Selena's belt.
Seems we have a common enemy. Well.
Selena puts the mask back on.
How about a trade?
Catwoman points to the stranger's helmet, then to the camera.
Show me yours, I'll show you mine.
The masked rider slowly reaches for her helmet. Catwoman watches intently, waiting for a reveal. Then the rider backflips over the edge and disappears in a manner all too familiar to Catwoman.
Bitch. That's my routine.
Miss Kitty walks up to Selena from behind the statue and jumps on her shoulder, meowing.
You said it, Miss Kitty. I'm out of practice.
Elsewhere, in the Gotham Dam Tower, a goon applies concealing makeup to Chip's skin. It works just well enough, but much like the Joker's flesh-toned makeup, it seems eerily off. As the goon tries his best to conceal the skeletal image beneath, Freeze angrily marches up between them.
That technology was not meant for any ordinary man.
You and I are far more than ordinary, Doctor. We're great men. And the only greatness for man is immortality.
You promised me Nora.
And you shall have her, but not until we take out the thorn in both our sides.
Who?
Chip turns to face Freeze, revealing half his face covered in flesh-tone makeup and the other half a searing skeleton. He smiles.
Wayne.
Inside the Batcave, the Batmobile charges in and grinds to a halt. The engines sputter out as the cockpit door slides open. Batman steps out and pulls off his mask. He sets it down on the hood of the car and slams his fist against the vehicle.
Damn it!
Alfred watches from a distance and sighs.
I take it you were unsuccessful?
What do you think, Alfred?
Alfred grimaces. A doorbell rings out over a loudspeaker. Both men stare at the Bat computer. We close in on the screen that reads front door. A security camera feed shows Elliot Knox and Lucius Fox standing on the doorstep. Bruce, still in his bat suit, turns to Alfred in a panic. We cut to the foyer where Dick Grayson and Alfred Pennyworth stand by the door, addressing Knox and Fox. They're in excuse mode.
Well, see, that's the thing. Bruce, he's got a...
I'm afraid Master Wayne is rather...
Out of nowhere, Bruce Wayne runs into the foyer behind them. He turns his head and realizes he's past them in a rush. He slides to a halt with a loud squeak on the floor and then flips around. Bruce catches his breath, clearly out of sorts. Knox and Lucius exchange a glance.
You okay there, Chief?
Bruce waves his hand nonchalantly.
Yeah. It's a large house.
Knox rolls his eyes as Lucius stifles a laugh.
What do you need?
Knox holds up an old film canister.
We've got something we think you should see.
We cut to Wayne's living room. A fire is roaring. Above the fireplace, Thomas and Martha Wayne's portrait stare down at them. Bruce, Dick, and Alfred are assembled on the couch. Behind them stand Knox and Lucius, flanking a vintage projector reel. A white screen is perched on the other side of the coffee table. It's dark. Only the glow of the fire illuminates the room. Knox speaks up.
I'll spare you the zoology portion of this presentation and get straight to the point.
Knox flips a switch. The projector starts rolling with a tattering whirl. On screen, we see Thomas Wayne and a young Victor Freeze, now with a receding hairline, pacing around a table in a small lab room. Alfred breaks the silence.
Your father.
And Victor.
With hair.
The sound cuts in.
Tom, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. It's too dangerous. Not for her. It hasn't been tested. I can test it on myself. And what if it kills you? I can cut the dosage in half, and even at a minimum dosage, protected by that cryo fluid she's swimming in. She'd still have superhuman strength. You don't think anyone is gonna notice that? She can restrain herself. Can you? You saw what happened in the animal lab. Thomas, I'd like to think I have more restraint than a rat. And what if it falls into the wrong hands? Science gave us the atomic bomb. And now, look out! Here come atomic super soldiers. I will not be responsible for World War III. We can keep it secret. How? I've already got Gothcorp breathing down my neck, let alone the Ruskies. Thomas, if you do this, you'll be dooming her. You'll be dooming me. I can't, in good conscience, do it. I'm sorry, Victor. I'm shutting it down. You're a monster, Victor, sitting in your ivory tower.
Freeze approaches Thomas Wayne, threateningly.
Do you have any idea what I have sacrificed, Victor? What I will sacrifice for my wife?
Victor lunges at Thomas Wayne, grabbing him by the throat and slamming him against the table. Wayne chokes, his face turning dark shades.
You will not part me from her. You hear me, Wayne?
Thomas continues to retch. He beats his fists against Victor and lets out a stifled cry.
Victor! Please!
Suddenly, Victor snaps out of it. He drops his arms and stands back, in shock at what he's done. Thomas gasps for air and stands up slowly. Victor moves in, trying to softly touch his arm.
Tom, are you all right? Tom.
Thomas smacks Victor's hand away. Victor's eyes well up with tears.
Tom, please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I would never do anything to... We will never speak of this again. But we're through. No. Tom, get out.
finished. I don't want to see you, or me, or my family again. I beg of you.
Thomas opens the door.
Everything stays, except her. Security will escort you out.
Thomas slams the door.
Thomas!
Freeze buries his head in his hands. Then a silent rage takes over him. His eyes move to the camera. He approaches it like a tiger stalking its prey, staring directly into the lens. Eerily, right at Bruce, Dick, and Alfred.
We're not finished.
The film cuts out as the projector rattles with a loud flip of spent tape. The lights come back on. Bruce stares at the white screen, stunned.
Your father wasn't the monster Freeze made him out to be. He was trying to save lives, at the expense of hers.
Alfred takes a deep breath, a small smile of relief.
And that's not all. Found this in the stash. It's your father's handwriting.
Bruce grabs the piece of paper and examines it.
Last will and testament.
Revisions he was going to make, including details on where to find Nora's chamber.
Bruce turns to Alfred, then back to Knox.
When we ever see it?
Check the date.
Bruce looks at the manuscript and sighs.
That's, 2 days before the shooting. Your lawyers never got it.
Bruce lets the paper slip to his side and walks over to the fireplace.
So, why isn't Freeze just a giant flaming fireball?
Exposure to pure, undiluted cryofluid.
So spray Nora with the same stuff, inject her, and call it a day.
2 superhumans living in a glass bowl.
Robin sighs. Bruce stares up at the portrait of his parents, looking down on him. He ponders for a moment.
Would it be possible, using today's technology, to bring Nora back without these side effects?
A lot has changed since the 1950s. More than Freeze would know. I've only seen scraps. But in theory, it's possible. I'd need the original formula, though. R&D aren't miracle workers.
I doubt he'd give that up willingly.
Plus, how do you find him?
Knox suddenly flinches as gunshots spontaneously ring out. Windows explode as a hail of bullets ricochet off the walls. Everybody ducks as glass and plaster splinters over their heads. Bruce leads the hunched-over group.
To the back! Come on!
They run down a mahogany-paneled hallway, through the kitchen, and up to a large exit door. Bruce flings the door open, revealing a wall of ice.
No.
Bruce slides his hands across the solid, slick wall. As gunshots ring out in the background, he grabs an ice pick and fruitlessly chips at it. No use. Bruce angrily chucks the ice pick away. Suddenly, bazooka rockets crash through the windows and explode inside. The group hits the deck and sits up against the wall for cover. Grayson watches as walls explode in front of them.
Who the hell are they?
Who do you think?
Bruce collects himself in the chaos.
Alfred, my father's old bomb shelter.
Bruce nods over to Lucius and Knox.
You get them down there, and you seal that door. Got it?
And what will you do, sir?
Bruce flashes a psychotic grin.
This.
Bruce jumps out in front of a shattered window, waving and shouting.
Hey! Hey! Come on! Over here!
Gunshots ring out as Bruce runs to the left. Grayson suddenly springs up and does the same.
Nice shot, dumbass!
Shots ring out as Grayson cartwheels away to the right. As the shots follow Bruce and Grayson in 2 different directions, Alfred leads Knox and Lucius to a simple wooden door. He opens it, revealing a concrete stairway. They rush to the bottom and reach a metal door brandishing a fallout shelter sign. Alfred turns the crank, opening it. He swiftly ushers them in.
Quickly, my friends.
As they enter, Alfred remains outside. Lucius stares at the old man.
Alfred?
Knox signals to Alfred, waving him in.
What do you want, an engraved invitation? Come on!
With a face of steely-eyed determination, Alfred slowly closes the blast-proof door from the outside. Knox and Lucius rush to the door to stop him, but it's too late. We see Alfred punch a number in a timed lock. 12 hours. The lock clicks as the clock starts timing down. Up above, we watch as Bruce and Dick outrun a constant stream of bullets. They pass window after exploding window until they nearly collide behind the front door. They stop to catch their breath, hunched over and grabbing their quads. The gunfire stops.
Oh, sweet. Think they're out?
The great wooden door explodes, sending Bruce and Dick flying to the floor. They struggle to get up, coughing up smoke and dusting off debris. Through the door, a man enters in a dark suit, Chip. Behind him, looming in the shadows, stands Freeze, red eyes glistening and ice rifle primed. 4 goons move in and flank Chip, machine guns cocked and loaded. Chip smiles as Bruce stands. Bruce squints his eyes. Chip's flesh seems plastered and cracked. Something's off. The seams of his suit somehow glow green.
Chip?
Chip confronts Bruce and grabs him by his tie.
I told you.
Never to call me that.
Chip's face melts before Bruce's eyes, revealing the horrifying flaming skull underneath. Chip's gloves incinerate, exposing a skeletal hand, which sets Bruce's tie on fire. The end of the tie vaporizes into ashes, setting Bruce free. He recoils in horror and pats his simmering tie down. His gaze returns to Chip and Freeze. Bruce and Dick stare at Chip in silent horror.
What the hell are you supposed to be?
Chip moves in close, face to face.
A blight on you and your family.
Bruce casts his eyes toward Freeze and tries to reason with him.
Freeze. My father.
We'll see you soon.
Blight turns around with a snap.
Light him up and seal him in.
The goons pull out Molotov cocktails and set them ablaze. They toss them at Wayne's feet. Through the shattered windows, more cocktails follow and explode. Bruce and Dick shield themselves and cough. Through the smoke, Bruce sees Freeze walking towards the open door. He shouts,
Victor!
Freeze turns. A ring of flame separates him from Bruce and Dick.
Why? Tom tried to help you. We could have helped you.
Because, as another Wayne once told me, words are easy, like the wind, but faithful friends are hard to find.
Freeze turns and marches to the threshold. Bruce and Dick jump through the flames, trying to make a break for the front door, but it's too late. Freeze uses his rifle to create an impenetrable ice wall. Outside, we see Freeze step back and blast the whole house, encasing the walls and all their windows in ice. Inside, Bruce desperately tries to grab blankets and pat the fires out, insanely oblivious to the uncontrolled blaze. He turns to Dick.
No, come on. Help me.
Grayson, choking on smoke, grabs him by the arm.
Bruce! It's over.
Bruce looks around at the firestorm as Alfred stumbles in through the smoke.
To the cave.
Grayson and Bruce both grab Alfred and steady him, leading him through the toxic fog. As they pass through the living room, Bruce pauses as the other two press on. He stares at the portrait of his parents above the fireplace and watches as the flames start crawling up the canvas. Grayson comes back.
Bruce.
Grayson's eyes follow Bruce's to the painting. They watch as it melts. Briefly, Thomas Wayne's face transforms into a skull as the canvas disintegrates. Grayson puts his hand on Bruce's shoulder.
Come on.
The two run through the flames and enter the study. The old grandfather clock is open, beckoning. As the study burns, Bruce and Dick slip through the clock and shut the secret door behind them. Outside, Wayne Manor burns from the inside out. Slowly, the ice melts away as the roof collapses, leaving nothing but flaming ruin. The next morning, birds chirp in the surrounding woods as rain falls softly. A squirrel climbs atop a charred ember, sniffing around. The ember moves. The squirrel scurries away as a charcoal beam rises and gets tossed aside. We see Lucius Fox and Elliot Knox emerge from the rubble, covered in soot and ash. The two stare out at the smoldering ruin.
My God.
They stumble over bricks and debris, calling out,
Bruce! Wayne? Alfred?
Grayson! They search fruitlessly. Lucius tries again.
Bruce!
Knox touches him on the shoulder.
Mr. Fox, they're gone.
We pan out. Knox and Lucius seem like ants on a dirt pile. Lucius collapses to his knees with grief as Knox looks on.
Wayne Manor destroyed? Our hero's fates unknown to the world? Well, they don't call it a cliffhanger for nothing. I'm sure you have some opinions on a few of our choices, so let us know what you think of the story so far in the comments below and share it around your personal Batcave if you enjoyed it. Remember to check out our FanScription podcast for audio versions of all our episodes, and tune back in soon for the third and final part of What If Tim Burton Directed Batman and Robin. Some Bat time, same Bat channel.
Take care, Ellie.